Fern. What would happen if Scientology, with all their buildings and members, decided all of a sudden to do only good things? Say, for instance, David Miscavige gets attacked by a pack of wild dingoes and is no longer able to manage Scientology because they ate his face off. John Travolta reference. One of the management members steps up and takes over, turning Scientology into an actual organization that dedicates its buildings to local programs and keeping kids off the streets, opens a food bank, opens some of the birthing to homeless, lets the children in some of these rural areas, vacation to some of the wonderful places that Scientology has property, or take some of the money that they have stored away and spend it on charitable causes or help with natural disasters in a way that is obvious and real. Maybe even let some of the Sea Org members play tennis on the tennis courts or swim in the pools. Pay the Sea Org members a minimum wage. Cut out the disconnection policy. What I'm trying to say is, what if Scientology decides to actually go legit? Too legit? Too legit to quit? They have the money, they have the property, they have the people who want and need to do a good thing for society. Let's face it, everybody I've heard asked about what was the draw. Then they get out of Scientology, say the reason they stayed is because they thought they were doing good for the world. Do you think that's a possibility? If Scientology goes away, it seems like such a waste. People that are involved want to help humanity. It just seems to me, and I'm just a lonely old wog, it would be a reasonable transition. Okay, well, you laid a lot of stuff out there, Maureen, and I have addressed this in the past. I've even done whole videos about it. I did an open letter to, or an open video to David Miscavige a couple years ago, and I laid out stuff like this, like, hey man, why don't you actually use the money and resources you have for some good? But let's say that David Miscavige does get his face eaten off. Not something I particularly want to see happen. Or happen to him, but let's say that happens, or for some other reason he's no longer in the picture. See, here's the thing about Scientology is, at its heart, Scientology is a money-making scam. That is what it is at its core. There isn't something underneath or below that. So all the religious smoke and mirrors and the services and the OT levels and the pins and badges and awards and certificates and scholarships and big trophies and all of that is just smoke and mirrors. It's all just window dressing for the basic activity of sucking in money with a high-powered vacuum and sending it up the line to international reserves at the Church of Scientology International and sending money over to the Church of Spiritual Technology so that L. Ron Hubbard's words and writings can be immortalized forever on titanium plates and on nickel-plated records and, that whole thing that I've talked with Dylan Gill about and we know about from Tony Ortega's blog of the Church of Spiritual Technology. That is also one of the key things that this whole structure is doing, is it's funding that project so that L. Ron Hubbard's name can be smashed into history. That's his legacy. All of this is, but that specifically is what all of these Scientology services and everything are funding. That CST project, David Miscavige's, fancy wardrobe and, lifestyle. And otherwise, they just kind of throw money here and there at various grants for different buildings or different projects that David Miscavige approves of in order to show the IRS that they are still reinvesting money into the scam so that the IRS keeps itself at bay and it all looks very good and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and the tax lawyers who are paid millions and millions of dollars by the Church of Scientology make sure that the dots on the I's look good and the crosses on the T's look good, okay? That's kind of the real picture of what's going on, and the Office of Special Affairs uses its influence and power to try to create more influence. It engages in influence peddling and what they call safe pointing, getting in good with, civic leaders and government officials and things like that, all just to keep the wheels turning and the money coming in. Okay, that's what it really is all about. We all kind of know that, but I just thought I'd summarize it here because the reason I'm stressing all of this and talking about this is all the machinery and structure of Scientology is designed to do those things. None of it is designed to do even one of the things you said in your question. So it would be a round peg in a square hole, trying to get the Church of Scientology to shift direction and start doing good things where they were doing all these bad things before, would literally dismantle all of that machinery and structure, because it doesn't exist to do any of those good things. It only says it exists to do those good things. But like we all know, when you look behind the curtain, you see a, dirty, grubby, mean, vicious little dwarf who is running all the levers and all the little, on all the machines. That's the reality of the picture. So if somebody else took over, they would still have the same levers moving the same machines, doing the same things, is kind of where I'm going here, see? They would have to rebuild this thing. They would have to totally repurpose every single Scientology organization and every part of the entire structure. And that would basically involve just dismantling the whole thing. And I think that that would be the most productive use of all of the resources and personnel involved currently with the Church of Scientology, is just take it all apart. Take the money, figure out, paying people back, first off. I mean, great, fund projects, but that money came in through highly dishonest means. I can detail it all, but I think we all understand where, that the Church of Scientology has lied over and over again and has exerted undue influence on its membership to get that money from them. So, real justice there would be giving the money back and just emptying the coffers. And for people who aren't around, they can't find them, or they're dead now and they can't give their money back, good, that money goes into these projects, right? Where we feed the homeless or birth them, or we, give kids vacations, all those wonderful things that you suggested in your question. They were all wonderful ideas. But in order to implement them, I think this would be the best way to go about it. Sell the buildings. They're really not of any use to anyone in their current form. I mean, how many people need to buy a church building with all these weird little offices on the upper floors and gigantic classrooms and saunas built into the building and bookstores and little cafes? I mean, what would this turn into exactly, right? The whole building would have to be repurposed. So you just sell it off and let somebody else deal with that and take the money and use those monies to, again, dismantle everything and, donate it to charities, Make-A-Wish Foundation, stuff like that. Doctors Without Borders. I mean, there's tons of good charities out there. It's not even a point of debate. There's plenty of places where that money could go and do all kinds of good. So that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.